Hi everyone. What is medical coding? It seems I've talked about everything but the obvious. I am so sorry that hadn't dawned on me earlier. So shout out to Patrick for inspiring this video that I think you're going to really appreciate. Okay, well, to answer that question, what is medical coding? I need to talk about the three books. So all medical coders, and I'm speaking outpatient in this video. I can do one for inpatient, but for outpatient coders, outpatient coders, we lug around three books. There is the CPT, the ICD-10-CM, and the HCPCS, HCPCS. Those are the three titles to the three books that we need in order for us to do our job. So, the CPT describes what we find in that book are basically procedures. A list of, an alphabetical list of what services and procedures that a provider, a doctor, or a licensed provider, healthcare provider can render to a patient. So again, our CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. That is going to be the book that entails all the listings of procedures or services that can be rendered on a person. The ICD-10-CM describes an alphabetical listing of the different types of illnesses, injuries, diagnosis, things that's the matter with the patient, what's wrong with your patient. That's what the ICD-10-CM manual entails. And then the HCPCS book, the one that's pronounced HCPCS out in the industry, that's an alphabetical listing of supplies, things that are used, in order to carry out that particular procedure or service. So, now that you've got that backdrop, that background, picture a surgeon rendering a fracture repair. So let's say that the reason the person came in was for a fracture, and now the doctor is repairing that fracture. So my question is, what was wrong with your patient? And you say fracture. Fracture is the word that you take to the ICD-10-CM manual, look it up in an alphabetical index, and you will find the code that goes with fracture. My next question is, what did they do to your patient? What did they do? And so your answer is repair. They repaired that fracture. So now you go to your CPT book and you find the word repair, and it produces a code for you. There's more that goes to it, but not. If I went going to that, then all of a sudden I'm teaching. So that's why you need to come to the course. So we got why your doctor did it was the fracture, ICD-10-CM. What your doctor did, the repair, CPT, and what supplies were used to carry the service out. Well, let's say they used a cast, HCPCS. You find the cast in your alphabetical listing of your HCPCS manual. So, insurance companies, payers, otherwise known as payers, they don't want you to send them a bunch of doctor's documentation, paragraphs and reports that they have to sift through to figure out those three things. They don't want to have to go through all that to figure out the why they did it, the what did they do, and what supplies were used. Instead, they want you to place on a claim form codes for those particular words. So those codes represent words. So in essence, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're telling a story to the insurance company, a factual story of what was the matter with your patient, what did they do to help him, and what supplies were used to service him. So beyond that, again, I said it at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're telling us a factual story to the insurance company, and you're placing these codes on claim forms and submitting them to the insurance companies for payment. So every time a doctor carries out a procedure or a service on a patient, that doctor, that provider, needs to be paid for his or her services. And that is your job as a medical coder, is to make sure you get them paid for what they did. Now, let's talk about your number one and number two job, because the average coder believes that, oh, my biggest job is to increase revenue, at my workplace. That's a wonderful trait that you have that, but before that, and I want you to keep that, but before that, your number one job is to protect your providers. Protect the licenses of your providers. What do I mean by that? What I mean is coders need to represent codes for the stories of what happened with your patient that are factual. In other words, if it's not documented, it should not be coded. So your doctors have to document to the finest degree so that you can actually code to the highest level of specificity. So it's not about, if your practice or clinic or hospital gets audited, it's about when they get audited. And when they do, you as the medical coder of that practice, you could care less. You're like, come on, OIG, come on, Office Inspector General, come on, RAC auditors. I'm not scared of you all. I'm not scared or fearful at all about you all docking us or fining us for mistakes that we might have done, because I have coded factually. So your number one is to protect the licenses of your providers. Your job number two is absolutely to achieve maximum reimbursement from the payers. Again, to factual or true stories that indeed did happen with your patients and what your doctors indeed absolutely did do to service your patients. So the thing is, you'll be doing your job, just minding your own little business, coding to your highest level of specificity, coding using your mastery of the medical coding guidelines. Your knowledge is where the money is. But while you're sitting there doing your job on a day-to-day basis, you don't initially realize just how much revenue you're driving into the company. Because all you do is, innocent little coder, just doing your little job and making sure you're making your managers proud, of your accuracy. You're doing that, never realizing the impact on revenue that you're having on your own practice, on your own clinic, your own hospital, your own clearinghouse, wherever it is that your insurance company, wherever it is that you work as a medical coder. All of a sudden, your doctor is or doctors will pay a visit to your office manager, and they'll say to them, hey, I've been doing the same amount of surgeries, the same amount of patients, the same hospital contracts, the same insurance payers. How is it that we pulled in an additional $160,000 in revenue this past quarter, Q2? What on earth changed? And so your manager responds to him or her and says, the coder. And that's it. And it's not until then, unless of course, another provider happened to mention it to your doctor while they were playing golf one day, hey, I hired this coder and man, my money has really turned around. They don't realize, the impact of hiring a credentialed coder has on their practice. I had a former student of mine call me recently and told me that they were moving the entire department of medical coders from the 3rd floor up to the 8th floor. And they never really, as medical coders, they go there every day and clock in and do their work and clock home and clock out and go home. And they never really have time to go and visit the other floors or, go and look at who else works at the company. And she called me and said, oh my gosh, Mr. Ortega, it was so neat how they moved the entire department up to the 8th floor, and we heard other employees that I'm not sure what their jobs were, but they were all whispering, look at them, those are the coders, look at them, there's the coders right there, look at the coders, and she realized, we're kind of a big deal, and you are a big deal. I want you to realize that just because medical coding is kind of behind the scenes, you don't really see that advertised on House or ER or Grey's Anatomy, you're kind of a big deal. You are the pulse of that company. Understand, realize that without you coming in and doing your jobs on a day-to-day basis, which is coding with accuracy and maximum reimbursement and using those coding guidelines to maximum capacity, you are the pulse of that company. Without you, no one, and I mean no one, not even the doctor, has a job. So take pride in that and know the big deal that you are in the company. I laugh because it's embarrassing to brag, but anyway, you know what I mean. Point taken, right? Now let's cover difference between medical coder and biller. All right, because I get that one quite a bit too. There is a monumental difference between a medical coder and biller. And while medical coding and billing goes hand in hand, a lot of times in the real world, they separate you. They have coders over here in that department and billers over there in that department. And so you need to know that it's a lot of, when they do separate you like that, they don't tend to pay the biller the amount of money that they pay the coder. Because at the end of the day, the skill set, the mastery that comes from the mind, the brains that it took to sift through that documentation, abstract out of it the pertinent information that you need, and to be able to sequence that information on claim forms in such a way that you actually achieve maximum reimbursement for that service or procedure is where the money is. That's where the money is. That's the skill set. And what the coders do in one department is they'll document these codes on what they call a template. It's either handwritten or it's on a computer system. How it's different at different companies, but they will basically hand these codes after they've already done the hard work, the time-consuming work. They'll hand these codes off to the billers. And well, the biller will jump on to whatever billing software that company is using, enter the codes that you've chosen, find the appropriate insurance company, click on it, and hit submit, and off the claim form goes electronically. And within a couple of days, the paycheck is produced. The doctor is then paid for his or her services. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, between the two, professionals, the coder and the biller, which one kind of, had the easier portion of the job is definitely the biller. And this is why they'll oftentimes take a biller just off the streets and pay him $13, $14 an hour, without any kind of credentialing, no kind of education, because it's really not necessary to enter those codes. Now, in my point of view, my perspective, if I were the one running the show at your doctor's office, your clinic, your hospital, I would never, ever hire a biller that was not certified or not mastered in their coding guidelines, because the fact of the matter is that, two heads are better than one. And so let's say that you're a doctor's office and there's only two of you, and one of you is the coder, the other one is the biller. It would make sense that both of you code and both of you exchange your codes with each other, and one of you audits the other. So you're auditing each other. So when you do that, what you've instantly done is you've increased the number of errors, the potential mistakes. The coder will sift through and say, oops, nope, that's not the actual code. This one here is the better one. Or maybe, she should have actually appended a modifier in this situation. I guess she forgot, or wasn't, really maybe she got interrupted. It takes two. And two heads are better than one. And so that's why, and this is information I'm giving to you all, so that when you're at when you're at the interview, help educate them, help educate your managers, help educate your doctors. They don't know this information oftentimes. They're too busy running operations. They're too busy performing surgeries. It's not common knowledge, folks. So educate them, with all due respect in that interview. Ask questions, and I'll talk more about that in the 3-day course, pertinent, questions. But that is, to answer your question, the golden question, what is the difference between the coder and the biller? And so hopefully that helps iron it out, and hopefully I said it in such a way that it made sense. But the final question that this video will cover is, what is the difference between, because you can seek credentialing through AAPC or you can seek credentialing through AHIMA. And if you're going to do outpatient credentialing, the CPC through AAPC or the CCSP through AHIMA. Both of them are incredible. Both of them are just as wonderful. I cannot choose between the two. But what I will tell you is that if you go through the AAPC route, the organization through AAPC, they do separate your outpatient credential with an A. It's what I like to call the scarlet letter A, okay? They put this A, you'll get this golden certificate, beautiful certificate in the mail once you pass your CPC board exam. And you'll notice, that your name, your first and last name are there, but then behind your name, instead of it saying CPC, it's going to say CPCA or apprentice. It stands for the word apprentice. And what that tells the world, the nation, is, hi, I'm a master coder, but I'm a newbie. So that's what it does. And so, that prompts your employers to make a decision. Do I want a newbie, or do I want someone that I can train from the ground up? I'm tired of hiring all these people that know all these bad habits and make mistakes. I'd rather, mold someone my way. And so the employers choose, I want an A. I want to hire a CPCA. And also too, in all honesty, the CPCAs get paid a couple of dollars less than the CPCs. But then you have other employers say, no, we want a CPC because we don't have the time, to sit there and mentor and grow, our coders. We want them to come in with a wealth of information and not have to answer so many questions and so forth. So figure out who you want to be. Be careful, because some of you say, I don't want to be a CPCA. I don't want to get a couple of dollars less. Be careful on that decision making, because you might want to be a CPCA, because as a CPCA, what's going to happen is they're going to have mercy on you. You'll land your first coding job, and they're going to forgive you. They're going to have mercy on you because you asked, 10 questions that day, 20 questions the next day. They'll realize, hey, this is their first time coding. It's normal that they're going to have a lot of questions. Our job is to educate them. The idea is not to be wearing them out. Don't be asking them the same question over and over again. So you ask the question one time, you write it down, write the answer down in your book, right by where the codes are, and don't repeat the same question. So all you're going to do is get smarter. All you're going to do is gain more knowledge. You don't learn less, you only learn more. So that's how you become marketable, and valuable, more valuable to that practice or other practices when you leave there and move on to other companies. So that's what I wanted to say is don't completely throw out the idea of being a CPCA when sometimes some of you want to be a CPCA. You want that mercy. You want somebody to hold your hand at work and be forgiven for it while you get yourself acclimated and get yourself comfortable. I want to share, and I shared this before in a different video, but in case you didn't catch that video, in a 3-day class, people say, I'm only going to have 3 days worth of education after your course. Then I'm going to be spit out into the real world, and I'm going to say, no, I don't want to get a job. I don't want to get a job because I only know 3 days worth of education. Well, let me tell you, 3 days worth of monumental education, because the idea is Medical Coding Academy sticks to 3 days of information that is pertinent to your industry, not permanent, not non-pertinent. Which is what happens a lot, which is why you can go to a 4-month course and actually learn less than you do in a 4-month course than you learn in the 3-day course, because the difference is we teach pertinent information, what you absolutely have to know, what's going to separate you from baby coder to master coder. And so you're going to be nervous. You're going to be nervous. It's only natural. It's only human to say, oh no, Mr. Ortega, I got a job and I don't want to go because I don't really know, but 3 days worth. Well, here's the thing. You're going to ask questions, and every day you're going to grow smarter, and every day you're only going to get more knowledgeable. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take that job. It's like any other job out there. We never know how to do our jobs on the first day. Think about it. When you're a bank teller, you don't know really how to do it. Think about it when you're working at the what do you call it? A retail store. You don't know how to really do that. Every job there's a learning curve. So don't complicate it, and most certainly don't miss out on the opportunity for a job in an industry that's so incredibly you know, I guess where you get so much return. So there's so many levels of medical coding. Eventually, you can become auditor. You know, you don't want to miss out on such a grandioso opportunity when there's not really this kind of opportunity in other industries, where there are no real prerequisites. You don't have to have a college degree. You know, this is easily a course for the stay-at-home moms that, you know, don't have a way to make ends meet. People that are making career changes, sick of their current one, want a brand new one, want the one that they've been kind of having a crush on for some time. They love medicine. People that are just coming out of high school and don't want to have to go to a 4-year college or a community college, and they don't ever have to really make a minimum wage. That's the deal. That's the deal. Why go out and be a person that has to earn minimum wage when, as an 18-year-old little girl, young guy, just graduating high school, why ever land a job at Jack in the Box or, you know, Pizza Hut? Why ever go through that when you can completely skip that and earn a very lucrative amount of money as your first job, you know, as a young man, a young woman? So anyway, I hope that squares away a lot of your questions regarding medical coding, medical billing, what's the difference between the CPC and the CPCA. If there are any further questions, I'm always just a call or text away. You know that by now. Definitely subscribe to my videos. I'm always putting out videos full of you know, information that's very much sought after, and you know, lots of times it's just so hard to get the answers out there. People tend to explain it in such a way where it's still kind of confusing, or maybe they go along the long way around the mountain and don't get to the point. So I'm striving very hard to get my thoughts together and right when I get on a video, stick to what you have to know. So hopefully that helps, and if not, a call or text away. Subscribe, okay, to my channel, and definitely go visit medicalcodingacademy.org. 9 times out of 10, when you go to the website, it completely slams everything together for you, and you just really can't wait to register. All right, catch you later. See you next time, okay? Have a great day.